Thank you, Ashley. Pretty song. Good morning and welcome to those of you who are joining us online. I understand last week we had a little bit of problem with our transmission, and I want all of us to stay up to date with the latest technology. Apparently we had a wobble. We had a wobble in our transmission. So thank you for those of you online who said, something happened to the communication, and there were 3 of me on stage at once. Think of how scary that was, Maybe it was just a nightmare and it wasn't anything to do with the electronic transmission, but hopefully we've got the problem solved. So we welcome our spiritual family that is with us online this morning. I have a question I want to ask you. When is enough? What is enough? It's an interesting question, and I've pondered it because although it may seem like, I have enough food, or I have enough money, or I have enough, career opportunities, or what it may be, things change, don't they? So just about the time you say, I've had enough food. Now, how many remember this from Thanksgiving dinner? Then they say, I made dessert, your favorite. I might have a little space left. When a moment ago you said, I've had enough, I can't eat anymore, but pumpkin pie with Cool Whip really could, be on the plate today. And when do you have enough money? I often hear people say, if I knew when I was going to die, then I'd know if I had enough money. Sometimes we think that our investments and things like that, we have enough. And yet, as we probably everyone here experienced in some way, shape, or form, that in 2008, when the stock market went down, there was a great deal of fear because all of a sudden we didn't feel like we had enough, whatever that was. And I wonder if that question becomes a haunting question throughout our entire spiritual journey. Because it has sort of 3 different phases. One of them is enough love. When do you really ever feel that you have enough love or acceptance, whatever word you might want to use there? When do you feel you have enough? And when do you feel, the second one is, when do you feel you have enough information? How many times can you check Google, MD Anderson, the Tulsa World, to find out if you've got enough information? Because enough information means that you're right in your opinion and the things that you are stating. I've got enough information now, I can make a decision. When have you truly ever had enough? And the third one is, when have you ever had enough security? I look at some of these big famous people, and they have security gates, and they all have Rottweilers, and they all have security guards, and they have security cars. And I think to myself, do you really feel secure? Or are you always kind of looking over your shoulder thinking somebody's out for you? I wouldn't want to be president of the United States. I wouldn't want to be the Queen of England. Always somebody is like, do I have enough security? And really, I think in so many ways in our life, those are the 3 challenges that bring us to the edge of our spiritual journey over and over and over again. Because we're challenged to ask ourselves, what is enough? And do I have enough? And so in this time period, in the month of July, we have been looking at various ways and laws to understand another component piece of our spiritual journey. Because after all, if we have these 3 things that always sort of haunt us, they're always sort of in the background, I don't know that really and truly being spiritual, being in a human body, we ever get over that. There's always something that our body needs. There's something that our mind needs. There's something that our emotions need. And oftentimes we act out of that place. And it's not always a healthy spot, is it? You know, when we're very needy for somebody's attention, we run after them. Or we're very needy for money. Isn't it funny how money just kind of runs away ahead of us? And we can feel that sense of neediness in us. So we come to learn more about who and what we are spiritually, because we kind of know what we are in this human body. So looking at the law of giving and receiving that we have done over the month of July, finally, we get to the receiving part. Yay! It's my favorite part. I mean, the giving part and the law part, we've kind of gone through all those steps. And yet you should know by now, it's not going to be easy either. It's not going to be simple. Because although it sounds so easy to receive, I'm open to receive, there's a lot of stuff that gets in the way of receiving. And I thought, what better image? You know, early in the month of May, here in Tulsa, we had a series of really, really heavy rainstorms. Remember that? Like the first week in May? I mean, it was 1, 2, 3. It was 3 or 4 days of a lot of rain. And right before that rain happened, I had gone over to shop at Tulsa Hills and crossed the river. And you know how the river is. It's a sandbar with a little bit of water trickled through it. Well, about 3 or 4 days after this rainstorm, I crossed the river again, and I was shocked at how much water. In fact, the water was so high that it was actually almost underneath, it was almost touching the underside of the bridge. I mean, thousands and thousands of cubic feet of water were just pouring down the Arkansas River. And I thought, well, part of me knows that it's from the rain. Obviously, we had a lot of rain. We had it really quickly. There was a lot of flooding over it to the east of us. But the other thing we know is that up north is the Keystone Dam. And so what happens is, as the dam gets full, and this is true of any dam, and this is the point and the purpose of it, is that when the dam gets so full, the pressure on that structure is so great that what do? Release the water, right? So part of the reason the Arkansas River was up so high was not just the rain, but was the water released. Someone is controlling that release, aren't they? Someone is letting the water through. And you know, in our spiritual journey, that's part and parcel of our challenge too. We dam up and we say things like, well, I want to receive more, I want to give more, I want to be more, I want to have more, I want to do more, and yet we're blocked up back behind the dam. And the pressure that it builds, there's an intensity behind that pressure that if we don't understand what it is to truly receive, then how are we ever going to understand how we are letting go and opening the floodgates? So just like when we talked last week about giving, we need to look at the 3 aspects of receiving. Well, first, just like the counter side of giving, receiving is the legal side. Remember we said there's kind of 3 steps in the execution and the understanding of the law. The first step is the legal one. I give, I receive. So I give my money to PSO, and PSO gives me electricity. It's a legal barter. It's something that goes out and comes back in. And you know, we can stay at the legal level all our lives. I give you friendship, and I expect friendship from you. I gave those children the best years of my life, and now I expect their best years back. I gave this at my job, and now I expect something back. That's the legal part of the law, and we stay right there. And the pressure builds in the dam, and the pressure builds. And we say, these promises of Jesus for an abundant life, come on, I don't have no abundant life. Look at my family, look at my friends, look at my job. And all the while, who's the gatekeeper at the dam? It's us. The second piece of this is the thing that really struck me this past week as I was kind of thinking about this talk and everything. And I thought to myself, what is it about receiving that's so difficult? The thing about receiving that makes it so difficult is that we have to let go. Think about it. The other day, I went to the grocery store. And I don't know if any of you do this, but I decided I'm making one trip into the house. So I've got all the bags, right? And there's a watermelon in the back. Okay, I'm getting this watermelon, and I'm coming in the house. Now, if somebody had walked up and said, now, Marianne, I'm going to hand you $1 million, I'm like, I have no hands. I could not receive anything else. Something has to be put down. And when we receive, we forget that in order to receive more, we oftentimes have to put something down. So if we're to receive more love, then we have to be open to receiving it. If we want to have more experiences in our job, we have to let go of the mindset that says, those people aren't good to me and that boss is not good to me. How are we ever going to receive more if there's no space to receive? You cannot put anything more in the refrigerator when it's full. The door won't close. Trust me on this. You can't receive more insight from God if you don't use the insight you already have. And that's the place of giving and letting go. Letting go. Letting go. I think that's the hardest part of receiving. See, I just want to receive. I want to have more. We live in a world that wants more. We are an affluent society. We don't know what it is to let go of stuff. We struggle to let go of things. Even if they're so dated and they're so old, we have no use for them anymore. But we want the new stuff, but we're not willing to let go of the old. So that second law, remember what we said. The second part of the law was the natural part of the law. And the natural part of the law is life-giving. Thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. There's something being born here. Well, it can't be born if it doesn't escape the shell. It can't be born if it doesn't spread its roots. It can't be born if we don't give space in order to receive. Whether that's mentally, I know what you guys are thinking. I'm not entertaining any new thoughts. I heard this person say one time, and I just looked at him like, really? This was an older gentleman. And he said, I haven't read a book since I graduated from high school. Somehow that's not anything to brag about, but okay. What new is coming in? What new is coming in as we see technology changing, as we see the world changing, as we're getting closer and closer to one another, literally by the internet, by travel, by all of these things, that if we don't open ourselves up and let go of some of those old mindsets that maybe we were born and raised with, that we have to begin to challenge and say, wait a minute, I can let go. Now, it was interesting to me because remember we said there's the legal, give and take. There's the natural, which is life-giving and birthing. And then there's the spiritual, which is transformative part of the law. I used to think that part of the transformation piece, the spiritual piece, was the next step in forgiveness. But now I'm wondering, if forgiveness isn't the part that gives the new life, when we are willing to forgive, when we are willing to let go, something breaks open in our heart. Something that we never experienced before is happening within us. It's life-giving. There's a sense of peace. It's like, you know what? I've finally let that go. Not out of, I've just finally let it go, but of a sense of truly, I've forgiven, I've released, I don't need that energy anymore, and now I can go on sort of with an expanded sense of who and what I am. Here's what I think is the transformative piece of the law. It isn't just forgiveness, it's acceptance. And I've kind of played with this all week long, because at first I was like, I don't see where I get this. And yet, the more I played with it, the more I saw it. Now, when I'm talking about acceptance, I'm not talking about, okay, fine, it happened, and so there you have it. That's not the acceptance I'm talking about. In order to receive, we have got to be open to receive and accept. Here's the problem spiritually. We go looking for God. We go looking for love. We go looking for life. We go looking, and God's saying, hold it a minute. I've already given it to you. There's no place to look, and there's no place to go. What I want you to do is accept the gift that you have. And suddenly I realized when we begin to accept the love, when we begin to accept the wisdom, when we begin to accept the security, the spiritual love, the spiritual wisdom, the spiritual security, then we begin to experience transformation. When you get a glimpse, like this gatekeeper there at the Keystone Dam, there's a little trickle coming down. And one day you get, as you've never gotten before, I am loved. I am loved. I didn't do anything for it. I didn't have to beg for it. I didn't have to earn it. I am loved because I am. Don't you begin to act differently? You know, this morning I woke up and I was writing in my journal. And I was, this, that, and the other things happening today. And I got down in the bottom and I said, I am grateful. Grateful. Whatever this day holds, I am grateful. And that sense of opening suddenly made me more keenly and passionately aware that really the law of giving and receiving is really about how we transform. It's about how we move from those three needs that we have on the very human, real level. We have a need to be loved. We have a need for information and rightness, if you will. And we have a need for security. How we move from the human side of that need to the realistic spiritual side of that need. It isn't something we have to go and search for. It isn't something we have to go to beg for. It's something that is already here. Jesus told us that the kingdom of heaven is spread upon the land, but we do not see it. Well, where is it? You see, we sit behind the dam going, I don't see anything. I don't see anything. We feel the pressure building up. We feel the pressure building up. I don't see anything. And it's only until we open up the gate that we begin to experience the flow. And I don't want a flow that kind of comes and goes. I want to be in that flow. Because remember, the law is giving and receiving. It's giving and receiving. And each time we come to a greater awareness, transformation, when we talk about transformation, what it really is simply being aware that there's more of me, more of my life, more of my reality, more of my personality than I ever knew. It's more of walking into an infinite mystery that I will never, ever get to the end of. You will never get to the end of. We will never get to the end of. So our job is to take steps, to work at practicing the law, to begin to understand that the law, we don't want to be staying down over here, which I give you and then I get from you and that's all. We're at an even exchange. I don't want to just say, well, I'm sort of open and I'm going to let some things go and then I'm going to invite you into my life. Rather, I want to get to a place, and hopefully we all want to get to that place, where we simply understand we're enough. We're enough. We don't have to do anything. We don't have to fix anything. It's not contingent upon our bank account. It's not contingent upon who we are, or the friends that we have, or the friends that we don't have. And don't ever think for a moment that's easy, because it is not. It's requiring us to change at a cellular level. Just like our example of the caterpillar who becomes the butterfly. There's a cellular change that must happen. And when we begin to accept, we begin to receive. And as we begin to receive, we have a greater and greater awareness of that which we are receiving. What are we receiving? If not love, if not wisdom, and if not the security of a soul on a journey. It requires of us faith and trust, but these are the tools that we work with. So let's try over this next week. You know, we've been grappling with this law over the course of the month to really understand what it means and how we work with these laws. It's not something we just say very flippantly, oh, you give and you receive. No, there's a deeper level of work here. Because at the end, the journey that we truly, truly want to make is not just the superficial journey of a human life. We want to make the deeper, deeper journey of awakening to the soul and the spirit and the life that's already there. Our divine inheritance, the kingdom of God within. Thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you next Sunday. God bless.